with the first presentation. I would like to ask Professor Petra Videmšek, who will present the results obtained in the EUTOPIA project focused on the social inclusion at the member universities. Petra is the leader of this work package, and she is the best person to talk about that. Petra, the floor is yours, and your presentation is already on the screen. Please take the floor.
Yeah. Thank you, Ivan, for this nice invitation. I'm the first, but hope not the last and alone, because I have a large group of people behind me, and I'm really happy to present today just a few results that we got in our EUTOPIA project so far. As Ivan mentioned, we have been able to hear yesterday that inclusion is really complex process, and it's about equal opportunity, justice, and equal access. And today I'm going to present the first results that is just from one part of a large EUTOPIA project, work package 5, because I would just like to mention to those who are not familiar with EUTOPIA that the pilot project is divided into 7 work packages: management, education, research, placemaking, inclusion, internationalization, dissemination, and sustainability. But as said by Ivan so far, work package 5 is dealing with promoting inclusion and equal society. And let me just say who we are. In the pilot project that starts in December 2019, 6 partners university joined the EUTOPIA Alliance. And in September 2020, 4 new members joined us, but the results that we prepared so far are presented only by 6 partners university: Warwick University, Göteborg University, Ria University, Cergy Paris University, Pompeu Fabra, Barcelona, and of course, University of Ljubljana. Our main aim was to create transformative, innovative, accessible, and diverse university. As you can be able to hear, 6 different members, now 10 members in Alliance. These are diverse group of people with different professional backgrounds, academic backgrounds, staff, and also student who works with us and co-create the content of the work package 5. We wanted those group of people, this is just one picture to imagine what group of people means. We wanted to show that inclusion, it's not just a theory, but it's a practice. It's about taking action and changing our mindsets. It's not just about small group of people, but it's about all of us, because we can all get into the situation of being disadvantaged. And in our main aims in work package 5 is to create learning opportunities for all groups of students, and especially those who are disadvantaged because of their gender, race, ethnicity, background, economic status, disability. And to achieve those goals, as Vesna Leskušek pointed yesterday, we need to ask ourselves what an inclusive university is. And we can say that an inclusive university is the one that represents human rights, freedom, and the rule of law, both nationally, internationally, where all members have access to the resources, and where all members have the opportunity to participate and to co-create. To create learning opportunities for all, our work package is actually divided into 2 parts. And all these 2 parts contain different steps. One part is to develop a strategy for inclusion in disadvantaged student community, and another one where we are actually at the moment, it's this sharing the knowledge with the Western Balkans and present what we have done so far. But I will not go now at this stage in the details what we done so far, because through the presentation you will see how we come to the common definition of disadvantage and how we map the effects and how we develop the strategy for inclusion. So before, I would like to talk about something else. What makes our project different from the project so far is this co-creation participation, which are the core principles with the aim to empower students. EUTOPIA focus on inclusion is a fundamental gesture of solidarity and identity for all alliance. And inclusion involves more than just economic resources, and it's particularly important for disadvantaged group of people. These following points, co-creation, participation, inclusion, defined our research approach. Our focus is on inclusion rather than on disadvantages, namely how universities themselves can become accessible and inclusive, rather than how disadvantaged group can assimilate to the situation, into the culture, as well as making inclusion our guiding principles. We place co-creation at the center of our frameworks as a way of including our different stakeholders and different perspectives. And therefore, we said that these principles, core principles, distinguish our projects from all others that exist so far. And let's see how we implement those core principles in our work package so far. I can say that the EUTOPIA inclusion work package is for sure innovative and challenge-driven work package with a clear mandate that we wanted to promote that the higher education is inclusive and accessible to all students. Right for the early beginning, in the early stage, here is the picture from the kickoff meeting at the University of Ljubljana Faculty of Social Work in the 6th of March in 2020, where we held our kickoff meeting. Right for the early stage, we invited students from disadvantaged group to participate in the work package activities. Not just to invite them to participate, but we also co-create the activities together with them by providing a space for them to share their experience. We actually demonstrate in practice what inclusion is. We made it possible for disadvantaged individuals to be heard and to show that if we want to plan and transform the university to be open and accessible, we need to do some changes, and we need that the planning will come from the bottom up and not way around. And of course, if we want that the university will be accessible, we need to hear the voices of those who are usually excluded. And with that, we open the floor for the participation. We demonstrated only from early beginning, actually, that inclusive higher education perspective not only contributes to the individual development and well-being and increase educational opportunities for disadvantaged group of students, but inclusive higher education can act as a role model for wider society. And I can say that in our work package, we actually adopt the slogan, nothing about us without us. This slogan was not introduced by us, but by the service user movement, people with handicaps. By ensuring the voice of disadvantaged students, we really can create the university of the future that serves for everyone. And we believe that this is the way to go forward on. And as we have heard yesterday, inclusion is a complex concept that makes it difficult to define. To recognize this complexity, the nature starting point of our project was to understand how partner universities understand and define inclusion, and what are the current state of affairs of different University of EUTOPIA Alliance. We've done this comparative analysis of the current state through legal frameworks, definition, data concerning disadvantaged group, etc. And the result shows that the word inclusion can be viewed as the goal that we strive for, as the process itself to reach this goal, and it is also closely related to other concepts, as Vesna Leskušek mentioned yesterday, like poverty. As mentioned earlier, we are developing and co-create the result with students. And after collecting, let's say, more academic definition of inclusion, we also ask students from different disadvantaged populations to define the term inclusion. We notice to define what term inclusion means to them. We notice a lot of similarities, sense of belonging, being yourself, not leaving anyone out. And we came to the similar points as also I'm relying again to the yesterday's presentation when Kulbir Shergir presented what is actually mean by inclusion. She gave us 4 key elements. I'm treated fairly. I feel like I belong. I'm respected. I'm a valued person. Inclusion is the responsibility to achieve results. It's about crafting a vision, setting goals, and developing strategy to reach our vision. Of course, when we go to the definition of inclusion more closely, we defined it to the different levels, but I will not go that deep in this presentation since we are limited with the time. But we also looked at our project, the definition of disadvantaged student, how our partners organization also describe these groups. We believe that the language has power and that language can also contribute to the exclusion or towards inclusion. In different EUTOPIA University, disadvantaged students are described with different terms, like students with special needs, students with special status, students with...
Vale, escribo Libáñez.
The results of the project so far show also that the starting point, what we need to do is making this shift, that we need to start to talk about inclusion rather than exclusion. We recognize that disadvantage and inclusion are complex and that they can be defined differently or have different ramification depending on context and perspective. The aim for the future university will be, as I said before, needs to be inclusive and accessible, in which all students or staff do not need to require special treatment, but the inclusion will be for all of us. And again, in our SharePoints, you can see more specific categories of disadvantage, and I will also not go in depth, but we, as I said, we wanted to make this shift, that language is also powerful, and it's really important how we call people. And our first output was also to prepare the common framework for identifying disadvantaged student communities. A view of the future university aiming to completely minimize or even eliminate these effects and experience of disadvantages is one that is committed to establish and maintain the university culture and process that is truly inclusive and it's for all members. There is evidences that a lot can be gained, came later, that a lot can be gained if efforts are then focused on critical rethinking and development, institutional culture and learning environment. And we also wanted to point it out that it's really important who defined what and how we measure the levels and scopes of inclusion at different universities. And with our first deliverable, we also find, and this is part of EUTOPIA Alliance that is committed to build a university that empowers students. Empowerment is a really strong concept. We know the empowerment concept in the social work really well because it's part of our science. But through empowerment, we can ensure that university is built really for the most disadvantaged group of students. And empowerment means capacity of individuals or groups to take control over their circumstances, experience, power, and achieve their goals. And this is what we want to achieve through our project, that people will achieve the goals that they wish to achieve. If the process in which disadvantaged student is oriented towards empowerment, we can maximize the quality of life of disadvantaged people and minimize the stress that that's happened in the way to achieve their goals. To address and encounter disadvantages, the university really needs to create opportunities and circumstances that are really eliminate various forms of inequality and discrimination. As I said before, in our work package, we involve expert by experience who have not historically been included in the project so far, and try to hear their voices, and their voices haven't been overlooked but heard. The main change, the main challenges in our work package is how to implement these empowerment concepts all the time, all students. And I can say that the main part of empowerment, information have power. All the time, all students and staff should be informed of available services, their rights, as well as obligations and standards of conduct. But information should be written in the way that are clear, easy to read, and in the one place. This is where actually inclusion begins, in this micro level, and where empowerment could happen. To enhance inclusion, it must be supported and monitored in the different levels, as said before, and with the support of different bodies. And also, when we are talking about the concept of empowerment, also the concept of empowerment should be constantly redefined and recognized, not just by professionals, but also through experience of disadvantaged students, for example. In our work package, our second deliverables in the work package was mapping the effects and challenges to inclusive initiatives. We come to the similar results as again Kulbir Şelger yesterday presented through the educational model of inclusion, if you do remember. If we want to include university, we need to keep in our mind that it is important that everything is organized towards inclusion way, from the recruitment to the curriculum development, through the learning opportunities and knowledge access, through the social, cultural, intellectual, sports life, because we know that studying, it's not just taking part at the university, but also outside of the university. And in our work package, we have prepared a common framework for identifying best practice for inclusion. Our main aim was to prepare this common framework, and we define criteria for defining good practice. And we said those criteria are that practice should be innovative, that should be inclusive, and should be tested. So that means that we can test it, how practice is implemented, that it's again inclusion, not just a verb, but everyday practice. And we found out that it's really important to subject the policy in practice in the program through also, and again, through critical view from this perspective of student, and to hear what they have to say about the best practice. Therefore, we created, and here is mentioned focus groups. This has just happened right now. Therefore, we created international focus group with students where we invite them to share their experience of inclusion and also of exclusion in the higher education. Each partner university recruit 4 to 8 students who took part of the focus group. And when we recruit those students, we have in our mind that those students need to be experience driven. So they need to have first-hand experience. And in our current deliverable, we are creating this framework according also to the good practice that we have heard from our students. As we said, our main goal in this work package is not only to prepare the results, but also co-create the results together with the student. And the third task is developing the strategies and education formats for inclusion. We are preparing the roadmap that fosters this inclusion. The roadmap towards inclusion practice in higher education is structured around 4 stages or pillars or whatever you can call them, like legislation, process, bodies, and action. And the first pillar is or stage is legislation. Through the first finding, we already become aware that a good legislation about inclusion is just not enough. The legislation is just a necessary prerequisite to identify and address, and as well as prevent or eliminate context and practice that generates disadvantages, and on the other hand, support and enable inclusive practice and approaches. Where prepared legislation is just the beginning for the equal access, but if it's not implemented, it does not serve the purpose and does not give students the feeling that they are truly included in the process. This national and international regulation are, as said, prerequisites for fostering inclusion. We can talk about legislation to prevent discrimination, description of measurements and operation, and statements of guiding values and principles. We can outline in our partners university examples of legal documents includes the strategic plan, inclusion plan, social responsibility plan, global prevention plan, code of conducts, equally action plan, etc., etc. We have noticed, and we also collected the values and principles in our partners institutions that are democracy, objectivity, respect for all people's equal values, equality, etc. So in this legislation, as we said, it's really important and leads to the second part of our roadmap. This is process. The process which is just another aspects of higher education are created and must be scrutinized in the different areas. When we're talking about inclusion, we need to talk about how we can make also teaching more inclusive, how we can involve people in self-experience in the research, in the knowledge production, human resources, etc. Stakeholders should be constantly involved and informed about every stage of this process, and especially people with first-hand experience, as said before. And it's not enough only the legislation and the process. It is important how the bodies at the university are organized. We need to have teams that should be set up and enable and implement and maintain inclusion as an understanding principles in every aspect of the university culture. The bodies, like the process described above, should be visible and accessible. They can perform the following functions like consultation, advisory, implementation, information, research, and also complaints. And all those needs to be put in action. And university should result in the practical action that create an inclusive space. And for example, I would just like to mention an example that combines the present areas of legislation, process, bodies, and action. This is the newly established Student Ombudsman Office in the at the University of Ljubljana. Similar bodies exist in other partners university, but what is crucial is that it is correlated to the particular context in the university where established. The Student Ombudsman Office is the university center that serves to exercise the principles of equality and inclusion, protection of dignity and respect for all. And the office acts as an intermediate between the academics environment and the broader society, aiming to strengthen the culture of open and respectful attitudes towards diversity. And what we, the areas that student ombudsman is doing, it's equality and inclusion, special statuses, gifted students, LGBT plus other groups, implementation of gender equality plan, as mentioned yesterday by Vesna again. They also deal and handling with the complaints and with psychological counseling offices and services. And this is just one example that we have been able to see this progress towards more inclusive university at our University of Ljubljana, because at the beginning we didn't have that. And through our work package, we all the time said what will be good to have. And what we wanted to add and to bring with our work package is that inclusion is a precondition. This is a key part of all 6 university approach to the topic. Actually, it's Göteborg definition of inclusion. The document states that it's crucial to shift our focus from diversity in inclusion as a problem to solve it to diversity and inclusion as a precondition for quality of education and excellence. And this is something that we need, all of us, to keep in our mind, that as said before, inclusion is just not a word, it could be a life experience, and it's for all of us. The implementation of the EUTOPIA project proves that inclusion is not just really often used words or buzzwords in today's European politics, but that such participation truly can change the positions. And by ensuring the inclusion and participation, we can create the university of the future, which will serve to everyone, not just for a few people. And an inclusive higher education perspective not only contributes to individual development and well-being and increase education opportunities for people with disadvantaged group, but also drives up that there's dynamic change, and that it helps everyone who enroll at the university. And inclusive higher education is therefore better placed to act as direct model of wider society, as said before. In this pilot project, we demonstrated EUTOPIA Alliance can lead the way in demonstrating the core values that are written in the project proposal, that our main part is to hear people's experience and try to do the action to change the things in the, not only in the society, but also in the study process. And for today, I can really say that I'm happy because I can see that we have practical issues also following my presentation later on. And this is actually what our work package is all about. So this is from my side. I know that I spent my 30 minutes as I promised. So thank you.
Thank you, Petra, for your presentation. I think you demonstrated how a social inclusion project can be done in an inclusive way. This is what we are trying to do. And as people can see, this is a work in progress. So we are about to deliver the final results in the next month, and these results will be available for those interested. For all those who may have some questions now, I would ask you to keep them till the end of this meeting. There is a special time slot reserved for the discussion at the end. And now we will immediately go to the next point of our program. This is a special point, so to speak, because we have with us Irnea Kolbl. This is our student, the student of the University of Ljubljana, who has participated already in the EUTOPIA social inclusion work package in the focus group, and especially we can hear when she will present her case how many different obstacles she has to overcome, to remove in order to make her study a success. And she is a successful student, that should be stressed. Everything else will be told by Irnea, and I will call her in. So please, Irnea, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Svetik. So, hello, everyone. As Mr. Svetik has pointed out, my name is Irnea Kolbl, and I'm a law student, currently finishing my Western Studies at the Western Studies of the Law at the Faculty of Ljubljana, at the University of Ljubljana. Mr. Svetik has kindly invited me here with you today to share my experience as a person with a visible disability, and to share with you the obstacles that I have faced to keep up and include myself in the academic process inside the faculty and outside of the faculty itself. Allow me to first illustrate the main characteristics of my disability in order to better explain how my disability affects me every day. I was diagnosed with spastic cerebral palsy at birth, and therefore I need some assistance with every single activity in my daily life, like for example, going to the bathroom, getting food, or getting a drink of water is already difficult for me to do by myself. As it pertains to my academic achievements, it's hard for me to type my own notes or to write So therefore, I need oral examinations, and I also need my friends and my colleagues to help me get my notes. Lastly, I have really bad dyslexia, and therefore I find certain types of words difficult to read. Let me start at the beginning. I started studying in 2016. Back then, personal assistance wasn't considered to be a right, but a luxury. Seeing as there was no personal assistance law enforced back then, which was only enforced in on the first of January 2019. Since the beginning of my studies, I have lived in an accessible dorm where I had assistants, but we only had 2 assistants per shift for 8 people. So they were only able to cover my basic needs and were unable to accompany me to any of my activities. To any of my activities at the faculty or outside the faculty or outside of the faculty. So I had to fend on for myself outside of it. So going to the bathroom or getting food was basically impossible. As a result, I often went the entire day without food or water, which made it harder for me to follow the classes and focus. Furthermore, because of my inability to go to the bathroom by myself, there was a person who came to help me only twice a day at a specific time. So if I needed to go to the bathroom outside of those times, I was either forced to ask my friends to help me, or I was in excruciating pain for hours and hours, on end. When I started studying, I was told by my faculty that I would be provided by a special tutor who could help me deal with my disability. But when I asked if helping me go to the bathroom or go to lunch is something that they would be able to help me with, they couldn't give me an answer. So neither could they tell me what the tasks of the tutors actually were. So as time went on, I just got too uncomfortable to continue asking. And I just decided to fend for myself. All those obstacles made it quite impossible for me to stay at the faculty for an extended period of time, and therefore made it impossible for me to engage myself into special curricular activities at my faculty or at other faculties, because following the necessary curriculum was also sometimes impossible. But nothing above can compare to the obstacle that ableism in the faculty and academia has presented for myself. I hope we all know what ableism is, but just to be sure, let me try to summarize it as a view of disability or actions against disability that results in discrimination of somebody with a disability. To demonstrate how the ableism that I have seen and felt presented itself to me, I'm just gonna list a few instances of ableism that I was victim to. At my first exam with the faculty, I was told I should leave because I didn't belong to the faculty, because the people like me shouldn't be lawyers. I was shouted at the professor because of the way I spoke, and it made him uncomfortable while I was given an oral examination by the professor. And if I had if I got a euro for every time I was told that my grades and my success wasn't comparable to my able-bodied fellow colleagues because I had adjustments to my program, I would be a millionaire. I was also told by a human rights law professor that I couldn't accompany them to a competition because accommodating my disability would be too much work. I could go on and on with such instances where I was told that my disability isn't welcome and it's a big nuisance to everyone. And that I do things differently, and that in their view is bad. And when I brought out the issue of ableism to able-bodied professors and students, I was told by them that I just had to understand them because they didn't know much about disability, and therefore such actions and such thinking is supposedly acceptable because they just don't know better. In conclusion, the point I was trying to drive home today is that until we address the ableism outside academia and try to change it, we unfortunately can't talk about inclusion, because making spaces accessible is just a start. With this, I conclude my representation. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you have a pleasant day. And I'm also open to any of your questions in the discussion portion if you wish to ask me anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernea, for sharing your specific position in life and at the university with us, and also for illustrating different situations which you have been in and which should be of our concern when dealing with the issue of inclusion at our universities. So the next point in our program now is that we expect 4 experts or 4 commentators from 4 different universities to comment on the case that has been presented right now by Ernea. There is a simple question: how at your universities you would address, or how do you address such an issue? What are the instruments you are using? What kind of activities are in place at your universities when you meet a student ambitious enough to start studies, to carry all these study activities out successfully, how you support him or her to the end of a successful study? So this is the question. Maybe because we have a special point in the program called a break, we can make a short break now for, let's say, 10 minutes in order that we allow all these our guests to prepare their comments after they listen to the case presented by Ernea. Do you agree to that? Okay, nobody objects. So I would suggest that we make a short break here and come back to the session exactly at 14 p.m. in 10 minutes time. Thank you and see you very shortly. Our workshop. Now, as we agreed just before, we are about to hear 4 comments on the case that was presented by Ernea right before. I hope all the invited speakers are with us. I see that Vjolca Krasniqi joined us. Welcome. But I'm not sure whether you heard the case presented before by Ernea Kolb. Did you?
No, unfortunately not, because I had a class. I just joined you, so I'm really sorry.
Sorry for that. We didn't know. So we'll let you listen to other comments, and then at the end of other comments, we'll ask you to comment on this case as well. Yes. So please stay with us, and you'll see and listen to the comments of the others. So I would just call in first Stefania Marcasa. Stefania has been with us all the time, and maybe you can start with your comments, Stefania.
Yeah, hi, hello, and thank you for Anya for your for sharing with us your experience. So at CY we have an office for students with special needs, and what is recommended to students that have special needs is that that are not yet even registered at the university is to contact the university as soon as they think they would like to apply, so that they can discuss with the staff of this office to see what are the needs, the special needs of the student, what is the program that the student would like to join, in order to understand whether the building is accessible, for example, for the student. So this is, let's say, the first step, and also to sit together with the staff what other possible arrangements have to be taken. And then this is even, as I said, before before the students start the program at the university. Then once if the student decides to join CY, then it will meet again with the staff of this office, and it will also meet with the medical service and with the doctor, and we'll discuss again all the needs that the students have, again with the doctor and with the staff. In terms of what is possible, I mean, to arrange with the students, so depending on the needs, we can offer personal assistance. So there are students that can be assigned to the student himself or herself, to take her to classes, to help her take notes during the day, or to go to the cafeteria, etc. And also there are so other kinds of arrangements that go from the, for example, lending of a computer if needed, or having a special access to the library, longer access, for example, or allowing the students to have to take free copies of the books from the library. And then there are special arrangements that can be taken for the exams. So in that case, there will be, for example, not the students, but an administrative staff that is assigned for that specific moment that will help the student to write the exam. And then depending on the issues of the students can have more time to write the exam, or we can arrange an oral exam, and also can have a special notebook, laptop for the exam itself. So I think that is pretty much what I can say. I'm checking if I missed something, but what I can say about what CY could do. There's also, for example, a special access for parking that I haven't mentioned that can be arranged for the students. That is usually available for the personnel, but it can be arranged also for students that have special needs. Yeah, that's it.
Stefania, thank you very much for your comment, for the description of what can be done or is done in such a case of Sergi. Let us move now to Ljubljana. Meanwhile, Isadora Jaric from Belgrade also joined us. Welcome, Isadora. We are now, just to explain you, we are now commenting the case which was presented before the break, and you can follow these comments and then join with your comments further on. So moving to Ljubljana, I would like to ask Milena Košak,
yes,
who has been appointed as a student ombudsman just recently at our university. And yeah, the floor is yours, Milena. Please tell us how we do manage here at Ljubljana University such a case.
Thank you very much. I'm also high school teacher at Faculty of Education in Department of Special and Rehabilitation Education, and the students with special educational needs are under the frame of my profession. So maybe Yanea said that she was enrolled in the study in 2016. I have to stress that it was only in 2014 that the university got its first regulations on students with disabilities, which were set within the framework of the Commission for Students with Disabilities. As we saw that there were still various misunderstandings on the part of the teachers and other professionals, we then organized a series of training sessions for higher education teachers in 2018. And in that time, we were also very grateful to all the students with special needs who opened the way to addressing the challenges of students with disabilities through their stories. In 2018, we got another regulation of students with special status, among which is also students with special educational needs. And in 2018, I also took on the role of a consultant at the university as a special educator in order to resolve misunderstandings that arose between teachers and students in every faculties of our universities. In that time, we saw that some faculties were more receptive to this, other less. So I think that there is still a lot of work to do, depends of the attitudes of the staff at each faculty. In these last years, we have also provided various trainings for students to acquire self-advocacy skills. And as mentioned, since this year, an ombudsman office has been organized to defend the students' rights. According to our regulations, our students with disabilities, they have a right to get a different kind of adjustments and accommodations, especially the students with physical disabilities. They should be they should have the access to the parking space at the faculty, barrier-free access to the building, accessible door handles, and etc. So I think that there is some progress through the last 10 years in the field of the students with special needs, but I hope that with this office of ombudsman, the things will be better and better in the future.
Yeah, thank you. Could you please comment also on the Jerneja's case? What are the entitlements or the rights of these students when they come and ask for the application to the university and later on?
All students with special educational needs have rights to study at our university. So according to our regulation of students with special needs, they should have also some examinations, accommodations of the study. I think that in Jerneja case, there is a big problem about the attitudes of the teaching staff. So, as I said, in the last few years, we made some lectures for the staff, also for higher teachers, and also for professional workers at offices, how to understand the students with special educational needs, that they have some, of course, they have some hurdles to overcome, but they also have a lot of abilities to finish the study. So it is important that we in this wish to make a change in this inclusive practice, also to change the attitudes of all the participants in our higher education space. So I hope that her experiences are not as nowadays, that they are not, I'm sorry. So I hope I answered the question.
Okay, thank you for now. We'll go into the discussion still later on, and there will be some questions to discuss later. So, okay, thank you, Milena. So now I would like to ask Jolca Krasniqi from the University of Pristina to present the situation at your university and how you deal with students having disability.
Absolutely.
Do you have some specific arrangements for them?
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Svetilik. It's a great pleasure to be here today with you, and also to discuss a very important policy that reflects the need for the universities to readjust and also to reassert itself as an institution that is fully inclusive and that provides equal opportunities for the students across different social strata. So I would like first to make perhaps to position the situation at the University of Pristina, where I come from. I teach at the Department of Social Work at the Faculty of Philosophy here. And also as part of my teaching, I taught a course on disability. So disability is very close to my research interest. And also I've followed on disability from the perspective of how institutions in Kosovo after the 1998-1999 war had offered or switched to the model of social model of disability to accommodate the needs of a large population in Kosovo that is more than 100 people in Kosovo that live with different forms of disability. To bring the question to the University of Pristina, I think is how, first I would like to say, how is the university changing? How is it transforming? How is the university adopting the third mission, that it is not only an institution to provide knowledge, but also a space that offers equality and equal chances for all to benefit from the institution, and also how the institutions is entering into relationships with the wider communities. I think here in terms of institutions, public institutions, civil society organizations, and different publics like community-based groups and organizations. So when we look at the policy, overall educational policy in Kosovo, there is an all-inclusive and lifelong education policy, that all the education from the pre-primary education to the university has adopted the inclusive education and lifelong learning as the cornerstone of the education system in Kosovo. This is a great step forward. This is a great advancement in terms of how the role of the education today in the Kosovo society, and especially important also for the higher education in Kosovo. So where does the University of Pristina, as the leading higher education institution in Kosovo, which is the oldest higher education institution and the largest higher education in Kosovo, dealing with disability and also inclusion of students who come from different stratas of the society, but also with particular interest in terms of disability. So, not to be honest and to be blunt and frank, there has been not that much, but still there are some inroads that have been made, and I would like to mention two. One is the University of Pristina offers scholarships for students with disabilities, but at the same time, the infrastructure, the larger infrastructure of the university, is not yet in place. So, in terms of, for example, there is no officer or personnel that would deal with issues of inclusion, even though there is an office that deals with academic career and also to support students for their life after they have graduated at the University of Pristina. But I think the scholarships is a good starting point. And as an example, we have been very happy to have had students with different disabilities to study social work at our department, but also the Department of Psychology, that makes social work as one space that is open towards inclusion and also integrating students with disabilities in our teaching. So this is to make the Department of Social Work, it's not that only talking the talk, but also walking the walk, so that opening up the space for students of different backgrounds, and especially students with disability, to join our training program. So this is still what I'm making here is that there is some attention to disability issues and rights of the students with disabilities, but the infrastructure kind of administrative, institutional is not yet in place. And I think this symposium is really important to learn from other experiences and also to see what are the best practices and models to introduce into the university system in Pristina. Second important step towards inclusion, and also that is that shows the sensitivity of the University of Pristina and commitment towards inclusion, is the recent, it's just 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks, the rector signed a memorandum of understanding with the Forum of Disability in Kosovo, which is the forum gathers disability rights organizations. So, and this is a very good and good starting point for the communities, disability rights-based organizations and the University of Pristina to enter into deeper conversations into how to enable students with disabilities to be on equal footing with all other students at the University of Pristina. So I would like to conclude that there are baby steps being taken, and I think this is a good start for something that needs to be sustained, that it needs that the university as an institution needs to reflect on how and in what it would be the best way to accommodate students with disabilities across different fields, but also to readjust its infrastructure and support system for genuine empowerment of students with disabilities at the University of Pristina. Yes, so this I would like to stop here, but I think also disability is one of the key policy dimensions, not only in education, but also in terms of non-discrimination policy. For example, the law on anti-discrimination guarantees the right of equal rights to people with disabilities in education, employment, social welfare, and also independent living. And disability is one of the issues that tests the university and its way of how equal rights, anti-discrimination policy, and also democratization of university is taking place. And I'm hopeful that the university, with its baby steps, that it will continue to work towards those ends to become a truly inclusive institution. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this interesting presentation of what you are doing. And this fourth presenter is coming from another university from the region, University of Belgrade, a large one. Here with us is Isadora Jaric. Maybe Isadora, you can present also shortly yourself and then also address the case of our discussion, please.
Hello to everyone. My name is Isadora Jaric. I'm professor of sociology. I am teaching sociology of education on the Department of Sociology, University of Belgrade, on the Faculty of Philosophy. And I would like to apologize in advance because I will, in a way, decompose this optimistic picture which other presenters share with us. I prepared a presentation and I will try to answer on the question of social inclusion, which will actually, I would try to argue that the issue of social inclusion is much wider than the issue of the treatment of the students with disabilities, because on the normative level, of course, in Serbia, as well as the other countries in the region, every person that has a required level of education can enroll a higher education. But actually, in practice, we know that from different social researches that there are a huge underrepresented groups within the student body. For example, boys, Roma students, children of less educated parents, students with disabilities, but also some other categories. I did not have a lot of time to prepare a proper presentation, so I will show you the examples. Some of the data are updated, some are a bit older, but actually the trends are very visible. For example, related to gender, you can see the official data from the Serbian Statistical Office related to the share of students in the cohort in general population age 20 to 24. And we can see the data for the year 2017 and 2019. And you can see that in total, more than half of the young people aged 20 to 24 are actually attending higher education. In Serbia in 2019, that is even more than 56% of them. But if we look a little closer to their genders, we will see that the majority of them are female, especially in 2019. This is not 66, it's 56% are female. So similar data we can see in the case of Roma students. According to the last census from 2002, because Serbia did not done a census in 2021, when it should be done. 1.44% of the Serbian population belong to Roma ethnic community. For example, according to the higher education statistics from 2010, only 0.09% of the students were Roma students, so they are largely underrepresented within the student population. Also, these are data also from the higher education statistics about the parents of the students. These data from the higher education statistics are actually data which higher education institutions collect in the moment when every particular student enrolling a school year, first, second, third, whatever, a student fulfilling a certain form. These forms are the higher education institutions sending to the official statistical office, and these are data from that kind of statistics. You can see the percentages related to the education of the fathers of the students. And you can see that, in this column, you can see the data for the male population from the census data. And now we can see that from the level of the secondary school education and to the higher education, the students with fathers who has more than secondary education are largely more presented within the students' population. So the probability that someone enroll higher education increasing with the level of education of the parents. The same is valid for mothers as well. Relating to the students with disabilities, higher education statistics in 2010 noted that only 1.5% of the students' population has some kind of disability, which is really extremely small number, because according to the units of estimation, at least 7% of the general population has some kind of special needs, and there are estimations which claim that that percentage is 10%. So what is happening on the normative level? In the Republic of Serbia, according to the decision which made a parliament more than 10 years ago, we have during the enrollment process, all the higher education institutions applying two affirmative measures. One is related to the positive quotas for enrollment of Roma students, and the other is related to the positive quotas for enrollment of the students with disabilities. The request for the first affirmative measure is that the candidate who wants to use that affirmative measure during the studies need to bring together with the other documents which are requested for applying for the enrollment exam, a confirmation of the Roma National Council that he or she belongs to the Roma ethnic community. The other affirmative measure related to the students with disabilities is a bit complicated because 30 days before the moment when the candidate is applying to the higher education institution for enrollment, candidates need to apply and bring their medical documentation to the University Commission, which rector consists and whose members are mostly professors from the medical faculty. And that commission is going through the medical documentation and estimate does particular candidate can apply for that affirmative measure. What are the affirmative measures? The affirmative measures are actually the mechanisms which give the opportunity to the students to use certain advantages during the studies. Such as, for example, the advantage in obtaining a place in a dormitory, or to enroll next year not with 38 SET credits, but only with 37, etc., etc. Besides these mechanisms which are active during the enrollment procedure, on the level of the University of Belgrade, we have a Center for Students with Disabilities. This is a university center, but a center which was founded 2008 by the University of Belgrade, but in center are actually employed the activists from the organizations who were dealing with the rights of students with disabilities. This organization working on the development and improvement of the study conditions for students with disabilities, offering the support in reading, scanning, and converting textbooks for the students with damaged sight, or offering some other kind of supports, then providing information to students with disabilities about the conditions of studying and ways of support at the faculties, because not all faculties has the same support for students with disabilities. Then assisting to the students with disabilities in choosing the faculty, and helping them after graduation to find suitable jobs. Then organizing seminars and forums, appearing in the media in order to motivate students with disabilities to enroll higher education. And also raising public awareness in Serbia relating to the needs of the people with disabilities. Then, and that is very important, organize and coordinate the peer support program, where the other students offering the assistance to their colleagues with disabilities. Cooperate with other relevant institutions in order to improve the position of students with disabilities, and performing any other task which can answer to the needs of the students with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Isadora. You made an analysis for us. This was more than expected, but you rightly pointed at the fact that there are various disadvantaged groups of students who we should pay attention to at the university. By your presentation, we came to the end of presentations, and it's time to open the discussion. And I think we also would like to enter the discussion first. So please turn, yes, please.
Yes, thank you very much. As I came late to the panel, I immediately answered the questions about the disability, but I would like just to remark on key policies that the University of Pristina has adopted that broaden up the scope of inclusion of university and this kind of openness of the university towards a genuine space for equality for all. And so here I would like to bring to your attention, also to share this information for you, that as part of this policy on inclusion and diversity, the University of Pristina has adopted enrollment quota for students that come from ethnic minority backgrounds. in Kosovo, and not yet for the disability. So I think this would be one step forward, so that this policy is also, enriched in a way and revised to pertain also to the students with disability. Second, as an important policy that has been adopted last May 2021 is an anti-harassment regulation, I think, which makes the University of Pristina among the first universities in the region to have an anti-discrimination, anti-harassment policy, and especially that would also be an instrument to combat any form of harassment, including sexual harassment in university. And this is all in this attempt to make the university a free and also a safe space. And the third, to go back to the quota for enrollment of students from the minority background. So each study program at all levels, like BA, MA, and PhD levels, has to have around 15% of quotas for minority students. Even these quotas are not fulfilled. They cannot be occupied with other places, because these places, the quotas are for minority students. I think this is a very important because citizenship and also inclusion and ethnicity is important. The data in the region, and not only in Kosovo, as a colleague Isadora from shown that Roma students are very underrepresented in our universities, while, for example, now at the University of Pristina, we have the enrollment according to gender, it's equal, 50-50, and also recent trends show that we have more graduate from female students who graduate compared to men, which I think it is a very interesting trend, and also it shows how different the history. Looking at the history of higher education in Kosovo is quite unique and interesting. So we would like to. I've always been very supportive of the affirmative measures, and especially quota, because I've also been an advocate for the gender quota for women's representation in decision making, even though when most people were saying, no, we should not have quota for women in politics, I said, no, we should have quota, because that's the only way to redress some of the inequalities and underrepresentation in decision making. And now we see that today women get in the parliament without as a quota, but as on the because they bring their experience and expertise and also leadership in politics. So I think quotas are very important. It's a way for the universities to address inequalities and also to make the higher education institution as truly an instrument for empowerment across different sectors and stratas of the society. And the last piece that I would like to, and for the anti-harassment policy, I'm really very happy, because that also tells that universities have to take into consideration gender and power relations, that the universities are not equal also within itself as in terms of the staff, academic staff, but also faculty staff, but also the management. And in terms to address gender equality also in the for example, promotions or employment. So the statute of the University of Pristina is very, it states that in cases when there are two candidates, one man and one woman, that if they are equal, then the advantage will be given to female candidates. Is this respected, implemented truly on everyday practices at the University of Pristina? That's a big question. Of course not, because very often the very progressive policies and good policies are not remain empty shells. They are not implemented in practice, but at least they are there so that for different groups can kind of seek can put into question the legitimacy also of the institution if such policies are on paper but are not being practiced in or not do not come in practice in real life. And having said this, is just also I would like to see the university and the policies that the universities bring that are open, that are points of reflection for universities to think about how they manage themselves as institutions, what their kind of legitimacy and credibility and institutional integrity is at stake when institutions, higher education institutions, do not pay attention to such important aspects, and especially that they do not make social inclusion as the cornerstone of the institution. So thank you.
Thank you for your additional comments and information you provided to us. And now, of course, the floor is open for any questions you may have. This relates to the presenters, to the active participants, but also to all others. I don't see any written down question. Maybe you'd like to ask directly if you have
Professor
one.
Svetlik, Isadora
Yes.
has her hand up.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Isadora, just come in and
Yes. Well, I would like to pay attention on the following thing. If we are discussing about inclusion, we have to be aware that widening participation should not be really inclusive if it is targeting only people from certain privileged social groups. So we have the phenomenon all around the region and even wider, that the number of the students in higher education are rising. But the structure of these students is not changing so much. There are researches which show that, for example, I know the data for Serbia, for example, about 60% of the students in Serbia, they are children of the parents who are professionals, who have a university education. So we have to be really aware of that fact. And the quotas will not change that thing, because even in this quota will enter the children from the privileged social backgrounds from certain social groups. So I really think that you need, when you try to think about that, to go to the statistics and try to understand what's really happening. This is one point. The other point is related to the that sexual harassment regulation. The majority of respected universities has sexual harassment regulations, including the University of Belgrade. So that's not such a big deal. That is a matter of the standards of which the majority of higher education institutions follow.
Thank you for pointing at the very, I would say, sensitive issue, the issue that universities may appear as an instrument of class reproduction, as you may say, not being really inclusive from this social stratification perspective. And I think this is a good point, because when we deal with the issue of inclusion, we may come very easily to the individual level, to the small groups level, but the let's say the big picture of the country or the region in which the university is situated in maybe can be lost. So thank you for this warning. And I think for our social inclusion project in Utopia, this could be an interesting message as well. Are there other issues we'd like to raise or questions? Don't see any. Maybe one question which comes to my mind when Stefania was presenting, and also Yernea before, was this question is whether there are some studies, some, let's say, fields of study or study programs which are, let's say, very difficult or impossible to open them for different kinds of students with disabilities, for instance, or different disadvantaged groups of students. I remember that we had discussions at the University of Ljubljana, often with people from some faculties who were very, let's say, hesitant about taking on students with some special needs or special characteristics, saying that they wouldn't be able to study, or they would be, let's say, put in danger where making certain study exercises and things like that. Do you know these cases from your environment? So how you deal with that? Because this brings us to the interesting point that maybe obstacles to inclusion are quite often in the heads of people rather than in in the physical surrounding or somewhere else.
You ask directly Stephanie if she has...
No, I'm asking anybody who would like to comment on this.
Because Milena, we do remember that in our commission, we do have discussion about this, who is able to study what. But actually, I think that if we want to make this environment inclusive, we need to ask what student needs that he or she will be able to study what he wished to study. So that it's not us who decided who can do what, but it's in the conversation together with student. I do not remember that someone who is physical, who has physical handicap wants to be a sport teacher, for instance, or something else. So, and we need to also take to account, I think that Isadora also nicely say that social inclusion is a little bit more than just we need to change the environment, and we need to take the whole context when we consider what we are going to do with someone. And what I would like to say is just what I like it. Therefore, I ask if you ask Stefania, because from our documentation in the work package 5, we saw that the recruitment system in Cergy, Paris is completely different than it is, for instance, in Ljubljana, because they do have many different levels before people are entering to the study system. They have a lot of information in the secondary schools and discussion before they enter or enroll at the university. So they actually do not come to this question at the universal level because they have discussion before, as far as I understand what Stefania and also the documentation from our work package presented so far. So,
but if I may here jump, I think we have to look at the whole cycle. So and the choices that are, I think this has to be a holistic approach, so that to look from the primary education up to the higher education, to see in what way and how the education system is allowing for equal participation and inclusion, and then see all these measures that are needed to as part of social inclusion interventions to enable a fuller picture, or that universities mirror the societies as a whole, not only the segments of structure, because it's nothing new to say that universities, you know, the people who have or students who come from backgrounds that are more educated and middle class, they do study, but not also the statistics sometimes also do not reveal the whole picture. So I'm very skeptical to look at only the statistics without positioning it higher education and social inclusion from a wider kind of and deeper perspective. And
I guess that Violica freeze for a while.
Yeah, we lost you for a while, Violca. No, you'll come back. So we can continue. Maybe the other question I would have is about who are the most frequent.
Yes.
Sorry,
yes.
we lost you for a while, but
sorry, yes. So
yeah, can just
to look at the access, who is there access, for whom is access, and to look at the individual level, but also at the collective level, and also geographical, because we even now we have geographical and regional disparities, and also inequalities that are within one particular context. So to look at the rural and urban divides, and because this gives us also this more to look at into where the access is and for whom is that access, and also to look at if the impact, what would be the impact of the policies and these affirmative actions that are really needed and necessary to have this vision for the universities as a catalyst for social justice and social inclusion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to pose a question. Who are the most, let's say, numerous groups of students who you assist at your universities? For instance, we've got a new information by presentations of Violca and Isadora, saying that it's Roma people who deserve special attention in this region. But maybe in Sergi, Stefania, who are the students you pay most attention to?
Well, legally we cannot ask for the.
You cannot ask
for the
for
ethnic,
that.
No.
No.
So we don't have data. This is a legal issue. I mean, yeah, because we don't have, even in the census, so we cannot ask for the legal, the ethnic origin.
So you wouldn't be able to set certain quota, for instance, to be.
No, I mean, I guess that research-wise, there has been studies that try to infer from the the first name, but nowadays it's get less and less precise. So no, in terms of ethnic origins, no, we are not necessarily able to see unless they come from another country. So, but otherwise, no. I was actually checking because I don't have the data myself for CY, but I was looking at in France. Actually, I found the data from the Minister of what students with special needs prefer to study rather than the students without disabilities, and they prefer to study, for example, human sciences or letters, more than the other students, but they like to study laws or economics less than the other students, and they choose they choose sciences or professional program more than the students without disabilities. So this is the average in terms of what they study. And this is what they choose. I don't know if they choose that because they know that they are more accessible than the other, kind of study. Then we can't really say. But for example, they choose less medicine than the other students, or anything that is related to medicine than students without disability. So that to answer a little bit your question on what they prefer to study, but yeah, whether this is related to accessibility or not, then I mean, it's probably related. You can't really say.
Yeah, as far as I understand, it's a matter of preferences of students, but also a matter of consultation with the staff to see whether there are some hindrances that can be overcome during the study or not. Kind of issues come to the forefront. Yeah, okay, we have started this discussion by the presentation of Natalija Majsova. Natalija is still with us, I hope. Maybe, Natalija, you can say a few words to finish this discussion, because it was your case which initiated the discussion itself. I don't know whether Natalija is still here.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, bravo.
I don't have anything special to say, but I'm really glad because I saw that a lot of universities are thinking about disability in making their spaces and programs accessible, and it makes me, as a future lawyer, as a future human rights lawyer, it makes me happy because it means that inclusion is in progress. So that's what I would like to say. Yeah, well, I get that. That's my.
Thank you, Natalija, for giving your final word, and this will be closed. Also, my final word, because we have come to the end of this workshop. I would like to thank all the active participants in this workshop for joining us. And yeah, you contributed to this discussion, which is ongoing, as you can see from the introductory speech of Petra made this afternoon. And if you are interested in what will be the final results, you can just turn to the University of Ljubljana, to Iris, who is behind this organization. She hasn't shown herself, but she's organizing the event herself, and she will distribute the presentations of today, but also some other materials if you are interested in those. Thank you very much. What I noticed during yesterday and today is that all the active participants have been women. Maybe this speaks a lot about the inclusion issue. Who is more sensitive to these issues and who will be the important actor in the future in this field. So my compliments to all who feel, let's say, that this is something attractive to your profession and to your activities. Thank you very much. And I hope you will see at another event very soon. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. All the best.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.